Hello, and welcome to a new episode of Fic Fiction, a magical bookish podcast for chaotic story goblins like us. This week's episode, we're kicking off the Christmas season. What do we recommend you read for this Christmas season, and what are we hoping to read this year? We are your hosts, Crimson,
Molly,
and Ali.
So, hi everyone. Happy
Hello.
festive season. How are we all doing? What have we been up to?
For me, I finished Leather and Lark. It was my first 5-star read of the year, so that was amazing. Definitely the highlight of my week. But obviously we're filming this in advance, and I'm American, and this was election week. So on that note, not so amazing other than reading stuff. And actually, I haven't made much reading progress since then because I've been like a little in the dumps about it, but that's okay. We pick ourselves up and persevere, and I'm currently reading Twilight. What about you, Allie? What are you up to this week?
Well, I am filming a reading vlog. So I'm filming a 24-hour reading vlog this week, which is fun. I finished a book in 3.5 hours yesterday, which was really exciting. So
Wow.
I'm hoping to speed through a lot of books this week. So I just finished reading the first book in the Prison Healer series. It's been on my shelf for ages, but I just haven't ever picked it up. So I finished it. It was good. I rated it 4.5 stars. So that's a pretty high rating for me. And I finished Twilight because... because I might have read ahead in the buddy read and not told anyone because they did no one realized.
I was waiting for you. I was waiting, and I'd gotten ahead because you guys started late, which is fine. And I said, "I'll wait for you. Don't worry about that. I will wait." And then Ali comes along, and is like, fuck that.
Well, then you have me hedging my bets over here, knowing I can be a really fast reader. So I'm only in chapter like 1 or 2, and Allie's like, "Oh, I finished chapter 3," and I'm like, "Okay, I'll just wait till she gets to like chapter like 7 or 8, and then I'll just like have a 3-hour sprint." And then she's like, "Oh, I'm done."
Yeah, I read like the whole thing in the space of like a day and a half.
So
yeah,
basically,
so now I'm just like in the beginning of the book.
We've established that Ali will be on Eclipse by the time we, finish Midnight Sun.
I'm gonna wait for you. I'm not gonna pick up the next one until I get there. Until you guys get there. Don't worry.
Mm-hmm.
But moving on swiftly from the Twilight issue, I did go book shopping today. So Alex and I had to go out this morning, and I am looking for Christmas reads at the moment. So I went into the works. So I've got a couple. I got a couple of things which I'm excited about. I can't even remember the names of them, but they look really good. I also picked up the Off-Campus romance series by Elle Kennedy because I need some more romance books to read in between fantasy bits, and I picked up Olivia Blake's new short story collection, which is called January's, and I picked it up from Waterstones and got a nice fancy artwork edges version.
Ooh, love a good sprayed edge.
Is the works, I mean, it's obviously a bookstore, right?
It's like, yeah, so it's a wee bit like it's a collection of things. So you can get like a couple of kids' toys and pencils and pens, and they do seasonal things, hobby stuff, yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's stupid, like stupidly cheap.
Nice. Okay.
I got, I think, 6 books for £12.
Wow.
I mean, don't get me wrong, they don't have a big selection, and they tend to like have like a TikTok favorite or like really popular books in, but they only have like, the really well-known stuff that's out at the moment, or, the stuff that your gran would read. Like there's no in between.
Makes sense.
You can get you can get kids books, you can get the Harry Potter books and stuff in the works. The one that we have near us is actually quite good. They have like pretty much like a full wall of just like loads of books. There's a lot of like romance, so like all of the like Wildfire and Icebreaker, Fourth Wings there.
I mean, it sounds a bit like how the Target book section is in the United States. Like people make a lot about it because it's always on discount, but actually the selection there is very limited. So
definitely. It's very much so more like a supermarket selection rather than like a traditional bookshop selection.
Oh yeah, definitely. And some of it's like they have this series, and I've never ever read it, but I feel like it's almost like what Bridgerton would be like. I think it's called Dilly Court. Have you guys ever heard of this?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like, I'm pretty sure it's a wee bit like old-timey Bridgerton books. And it's like, my mum would 100% enjoy it, I think. But I've always wanted to pick them up, but there's like loads of them. There's like loads and loads and loads of them.
If I'm not mistaken, that's the author. And she does tend to like stick to like the really like historical
Is it?
fiction.
I thought that
yeah.
was what the series was called.
No,
God,
because I
right, okay.
think she does like wartime stuff as well.
I'm just Googling it as we speak. Oh, right, okay, yeah, Dillycourt is like the person. I thought that was like the name of the series.
No, but she's got a ton of books, like a ton. Like your mum's version of James Patterson.
Hmm.
So,
It's like Bridgerton before it was cool.
Yeah.
Kind of vibe. Anywho, Molly, what about you? What are you up to at the moment?
So I also went to the works this week. I went in and I picked up the stunning sprayed edge edition of Hexed by Emily McIntyre that was just released. I also picked up The Striker. What else? I chopped off the majority of my hair. So
that was a change.
A good like 12 inches like gone. But it was a good change. And then in terms of reading, I finished Spookily Yours by Jennifer Chipman. It was good, not much else to say in that regard. I paused reading Twilight. But I'll have to pick that one up again. And then I also read A Witch's Guide to Fake Dating a Demon by Sarah Hawley, and that one was extremely good. So highly recommend that one.
You've been busy.
Yeah.
I was, and then I also picked back up with my reread of Ice Planet Barbarians. So I don't know what to read, so I'm just gonna jump into the Giant Blue Aliens again, because why not?
Why not? Absolutely.
Why not? So good to know that we've all been productive in some way, format this week.
Some way, shape, or form.
Sure. If productive is arguing with people on TikTok, then yeah, I've been super productive.
You've been on a roll this week with the
Crimson
TikTok.
has been thriving.
I don't know about thriving, but I've definitely been speaking a lot. So we'll see. Anywho, I think it's time to dive right into the episode. Our first segment is Certified Christmas Reads, which is exactly what it sounds like, Christmas-themed reads that we certify as a good time. So we've each put together a little list of our favorite Christmas reads. I'll go ahead and get it started. So I want to start with one that's a little bit longer and probably like the least Christmas themed of the ones on my list. So that would be Wreck the Halls by Tessa Bailey. This is a super good time.
Yes, I read that one last year. It was also, yeah, I definitely agree. Such a good time.
Yeah. It is so fun. It is a full-length novel. It's a rom-com, obviously. It's about the adult children of two estranged rock star best friends who were in a band together, but they haven't spoken in years. And their kids, for various reasons, decide to participate in a reality show to try to reunite the band for a Christmas reunion concert. And this is really just like Tessa Bailey at its best. It's fun. There's a little bit of angst, but it's mostly really upbeat. And yes, there is definitely a snowball fight in the middle of it. So highly recommend that one.
Love that. That is on my list, I think, for this year.
So freaking cute.
Yeah, it's so cute. I mean, I actually went into it really kind of skeptical because the people's names are Melody and Beat, and I was like, there's no way this can't be good. But actually,
that's a very interesting collection of people.
Yeah. But I was proven wrong pretty soon into the novel. You're not even thinking about their names because they're just so much fun. So definitely a good time. The next one I won't go into too much because I think it's pretty obvious if you're a romantasy reader, A Court of Frost and Starlight. I will say that if you're just now getting into ACOTAR and you've heard people say like they don't like this book, I think that's because people expect it to be way more like integral to the story than it is. If you just take it for what it is as like a cozy little like Christmas time read, which is basically it's a Christmas special, then yeah, you're gonna have a great time.
The slander that surrounds A Court of Frost and Starlight is just entirely undeserved. It is so much fun. It is
actually one of my it's actually my second favorite book in that whole series.
Really? That is so sweet.
When I did my ranking of them, I put it at number 2 because I actually think it's like perfectly written. There's literally nothing wrong with it.
It's
and the
so
only reason...
cozy.
Yeah, so cozy.
the drunk decorating gets me every time.
Oh my God, I
Yeah.
love it.
Like every time.
Like, I think nothing solidified Feyre and Cassian's friendship for me like that drunk decorating. It was so much fun.
And then Asriel coming in and also joining in.
Yes.
It's
Like,
just so different. Like the characters are just so, you really get to see a side of them that just like isn't anything to do with the plot of the books. Like you just get to see them as people just having their own little festive time, and I love that.
Yeah, it's almost like Sarah wrote a cozy little fanfic of her own series. Like, it's amazing.
And it really like pulls on like the found family like Christmas tropes.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Completely agree. So that one is super cozy and wholesome. The next one on my list, not so wholesome. It's called Dear Monster Claus. It's by Maeve Black. It is a 164-page monster romance novella. Both of them are not human, though. She is a Cupid, and he is a grumpy Santa Claus who is also a shifter with wings and horns. And certain parts that are candy cane striped. And it's just fun and spicy and steamy and very silly, but a really, really good time. So if you're looking to just totally escape for a minute and read something that is a little toe curling, this is the one, I think. It's really good.
Hold out, let me just add this to my Goodreads.
That tends to right up your street, Molly. Like that.
It does.
Yeah. I love when a monster romance is just super cozy, and that's kind of what this is.
Amazing.
And after that, I actually have a couple little one-shot fanfics. So if people don't know, pretty much every year there are usually Christmas-themed like writing fests. And a couple years ago, there were two that really stood out to me. So the first is Red or Green by Sin Lee Yu, who also, of course, wrote Manacled. I think a lot of people read Manacled and then don't read her other stuff because they just assume it'll all be really heavy and dark like Manacled is. She is actually like the queen of fluff. She writes some of the best fluff I've ever read. And Red or Green is an example of that. It's a Christmas themed one shot, and it's an 8th year fic, and it's a resorting fic. So Hermione has been sorted into Slytherin, and Draco has been sorted into Gryffindor, obviously. And they weirdly end up accidentally helping each other come to terms with this, and it's really, really cute. So that one's really fun. It's about 5,000 words. And the second one is also about 5,000 words. So that means you can probably read it in like less than an hour. And it's called I'm Never Lonely When I'm With You by Pacific Rimbaud. It is so much fun. It is basically surrounding like this pine cone, and that they like find together at Hogwarts in this like really angsty time, and then it kind of just follows them throughout like a couple of years, and they end up kind of accidentally becoming roommates, and it's this like very cute evolution of their relationship that kind of centers around this like winter theme of pine cones.
There's just something about Harry Potter fan fiction at Christmas time that just hits different. Like, obviously, reading Harry Potter fan fiction throughout the year is, you know, chef's kiss perfect, but at Christmas, there's something like slightly more magical about it, especially when, obviously, as you said, fanfic authors are releasing like their Christmas like one shots. It's just, there's something about it. It just hits different.
It does.
Yes.
I agree.
I totally agree. I feel like Christmas is always the time of year that I like most want to read the most wholesome, fluffy fanfics. And like, I think Christmas as a time is a great time for it because, like, with the completion of the series, they're left in such an angsty situation, right? Like, you have all these people that fought in a war way too young. There's so much to be upset about. And then using Christmas as this tool to, like, bring the characters together, like, can create these, like, really beautiful stories.
You're so right.
For sure. Definitely.
And then last but certainly not least, another published book, Window Shopping by Tessa Bailey. This is a Christmas novella. This is my very favorite Christmas read. I love this book. I reread it every year. It is just like perfect Christmas rom-com. She's a window dresser that wants a chance to do windows on Saks Fifth Avenue. It's like her dream. And he is like the grumpy, I think, manager of the store. And it progresses from there. It's like this perfect little Christmas grumpy sunshine. So highly recommend that one as well.
Amazing. Just as per usual, perfect recommendations from Crimson.
I love a Tessa Bailey book too. Like Tessa Bailey is just so underrated.
It's so true. I feel like with Tessa Bailey, like I haven't always loved every single book, but every single book is going to be good. And so it's either going to be from good to amazing. And when she hits it out of the park, it's like unmatched. It's so good.
Yeah, agreed.
So speaking of people who love Tessa Bailey books then, Allie, what are your recommendations for the season?
So, funnily enough, speaking I love Tessa Bailey is not on my Christmas reads list because I have not read a Tessa Bailey Christmas book yet. It is on my want to read at some point. But so first on my list, we have the one, the only, A Court of Frost and Starlight, obviously. I know we've spoken about this already, but I just can't explain it. I love that book. I feel like to me, it has to be read away from the series. If you are like rereading the series, do not read A Court of Mist and Starlight, A Court of Frost and Starlight. Don't read it as part of the series. Like read it at the very end as like a finishing touch, or once everything is said and done, because it just doesn't fit into the actual series itself. But it's perfect as a standalone.
Yeah, and you need to be in the right mood for it. Like if you're coming right off of Wings and Ruin and all of the intense emotions at the end of that book, and then you're going into A Court of Silver Flames, especially knowing what's in that book, I don't think that's the right headspace for a fluffy Christmas.
No.
Yeah,
I agree.
Definitely. I agree. And the next book I have on my list, actually, a few of my books aren't actually Christmas books. They're just books that give me Christmas vibes, which is nice. So the next book I have is called Once Upon a Frosted Star. And I read this earlier this year. I rated it 3 stars. So it's not like a 5-star read for me. But I feel like if I read it at Christmas, my rating could change. And maybe I just didn't read it at the right time. So it's actually about, it's a romance. And it's about a girl who throws these like crazy parties, almost like the Great Gatsby style like parties, whenever she only is a human when the snow falls. So when it's not snowing, she's actually a swan. Because she's been cursed, and it's all about this guy coming and fixing her curse.
It's a little bit like the Swan Princess. Okay.
It is not a happy ending.
Oh.
Just to give you guys a heads up, it's not a happy ending. Sorry.
So maybe a read for the festive season when you want to be depressed.
Yes.
Great.
Agreed. But back on the other one, I don't know, Molly, I think that you might have either read this or it's on your list, and it's the Christmas novel that's A Merry Little Meet Cute. Have you read it yet?
Yeah. I haven't, but I did read the short novella, what's it called? The Snow Place Like LA or something like that.
Yes.
It's like the really short one. And that one I loved. So A Merry Little Meet Cute is on my TBR for this year.
I gave this a 5-star. It's basically about a movie. So the male main character, he is like almost like a washed up pop star kind of guy. And he's portrayed in the media as like being in a pretty bad light, but he's not actually like that, which I'll not spoil, but obviously he has depths to him. And he basically gets recruited to essentially help his image, and he is going to make and star in what I would say is like a Hallmark Christmas movie. And the female main character, or the person who was supposed to be in the movie, drops out. So enter our female main character. She is an adult online entertainer.
Oh.
Like OnlyFans vibes. And the director of the movie is basically the guy that works in the movie. He's basically also like her director in terms of like adult entertainment. So they try to keep it this big secret that she is an adult entertainer. And I'll not say exactly what happens in terms of spoiling it, but this is like in the synopsis or the blurb of this book, so I will give you this. They're keeping it this big secret. The male main character recognizes her immediately.
Oh, I knew it. I love that.
It's so good. It's so good.
Amazing.
Yeah. I'm gonna leave Molly to read it, but there's a bit in it where they obviously, it's a romance. You know they're going to be romantic, but something happens and it just makes me cackle. And I'll wait till you get to that part.
I'm going to have to add that to my TBR because when I've seen it in these roundups, it's always in roundups that seem like they're spiceless. So I'm going to have to like...
It's not spiceless. It's not spicy.
Yeah. It sounds, the vibe that you're saying reminds me of, oh, what was it called? There was like a roommate romance that I read a few years ago that made the rounds, and people did the opposite. They made it sound really, really spicy because she, I think, is an adult entertainer also in the story, but then it wasn't spicy at all. And so I was disappointed in that one because people didn't give me the spice level. But now I'm at like a different place where it's like, as long as I know beforehand, I kind of don't care. But I saw it, I think, in roundups of like books that were like, they kiss at the end. Like,
yeah, there's like a little bit of spice in this, but it's like maybe like a quarter of a chili.
Yeah, they kiss in the end is something that I like to keep mostly contained to well, I mean, ace romances and stuff, like that's fine if that's your maximum of where you're going, but then general, I find it really unrealistic when you have like two adults in a book who like are just like, we'll kiss at the end and that means that we're together forever. So.
This isn't Disney.
No.
No. And I do watch a lot of Hallmark Christmas movies, and that's the vibe in Hallmark Christmas movies. Mm-hmm. So, we have to keep that in one section of our entertainment.
I agree. So, also on my list, I've got two left. I've got Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. I love the first Harry Potter movie as a Christmas watch at Christmas. And I feel like reading the book gives same vibes. Because nothing like crazy, crazy awful happens in that book. Like, it's not as dark as the other ones. It's light and it's cozy and it's magical. And I feel like that gives really good Christmas vibes.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's on the list. And the last one then... This is a Christmas book. My one actual Christmas book that's on the list, other than A Merry Little Meat Cute. And it is a murder book. It's crime. So it's by Val McDermid. So she's released this collection called Christmas is Murder. And it's a short story collection of all these little short stories about murders that happen at Christmas time. I love it. We went home to visit my family in 2022 at Christmas. Also, traveling at Christmas, would not recommend. Awful.
No.
Too many kids, too many screaming children, not the vibe. And so we traveled, and I remember we were really early for the boat that we were getting across to Ireland. And I sat and I read pretty much all of these Christmas little stories in the car. And it was a really good time. And I love a murder. I love anything with crime in it. I don't read them often, but I love them.
I mean, valid.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Who doesn't love a murder? Let's be honest.
So my collection's a bit of an odd selection of books.
See, you thought you were tuning in to hear some really cuddly, wholesome romances, and instead Allie is like, let's talk about murder. Let's do it.
Sad romance and murder.
Yeah. Love the vibes. It's great.
Yeah, no happy ending in sight. Murder. Let's go.
Honestly.
Yeah. What about you, Molly, though?
So mine are very much the opposite of Allie's in that mine are more fluffy and, have the happy ending, but that doesn't mean there isn't any spice. So the first one, obviously, we've spoken about is A Court of Frost and Starlight. Again, I highly recommend. It's such a cozy, good time. It's like the Christmas special of your favorite show that you watch at Christmas. So, Move Over Gavin and Stacey and the Doctor Who Christmas special. Because you've got A Court of Frost and Starlight and your favorite, misfit gang from ACTA. So that is the one that we've spoken about. So the first book that I'm going to talk about is The Christmas Wish by Lindsay Kelk. She is a lawyer and she is going home for Christmas after being put on a sabbatical because she threw a stapler at a misogynistic client. And she's kind of basically thinking that she doesn't want to be a lawyer anymore. And she's terrified to tell her family, especially her dad, who is like super proud of her for becoming like a magic circle firm lawyer. And so she ends up making a wish. And it kind of leads to a Groundhog Day situation in which she's having to repeat Christmas Day. And I'll be completely like transparent. I hate Groundhog's Day. I hate the film. I hate it with a passion. And I kind of went into that thinking, oh God, this probably isn't going to be that great because I hate that film. And I'd also read is it Inner Holidays by Christina Lauren? And I didn't enjoy that one. But The Christmas Wish did it right. So
Okay.
I highly recommend. Obviously, there's like stuff with an ex who treated her badly. There's some like family drama going on. There's a little bit of, smart as well. And the next door neighbor, the son of the next door neighbor who she was in love with as a teenager, is also home for the holidays. So there's a lot of there's a lot of like hilarity going on. But also she's like figuring out that her family members aren't as happy as, they seem on the surface. So she's kind of like unraveling all of their trauma and wanting to fix some of the things that are going wrong for them. So it was really sweet, but it was also such a good read. So I highly recommend that one. My next read was Cause and Effect. So I read this one last year, and it features a girl whose best friend's boyfriend buys her a first class plane ticket to go and see whether the romance she had with the guy can be rekindled. And basically, when she gets to the airport, she finds out that all flights are grounded after, she's tried to get on a plane and, somebody goes into labor because they've said that they can fly when really they can't. So the flight gets grounded, and then all flights get grounded. And it just so happens that on this flight, she had a bit of an encounter with a hunky soldier who was a bit of an ass. Who's a bit of an ass. And wouldn't you know it, that when they go to the car rental place at the airport, there's only one car left and they're going to the same place.
So one car trope. Okay.
Yeah. So they end up on a cross-country journey at Christmas to go to this town where they both end up wanting to go because he's going home to see his family. She's trying to find, this bloke that she had been dating and was thinking he was the one. Meanwhile, they're going through, hijinks on this car journey to get to home for Christmas. And it ends up that they go to like different Christmas like towns and like ice skating, and just it's amazing. Immaculate.
This sounds like a good time. I might have to add this to my list. I feel like this is right up my alley.
Such a good read. So that's Cause and Effect by Piper Rain. Another book that I had was Big Nick Energy, which is a cowboy Christmas romance. Yes, featuring a single mom and a slightly older man. So she goes on a date with this bloke, not Nick, but his son. She ends up going on a date with his son as like, a foray into dating after being single and having like her kid, and they end up being best friends. And the guy's son like kind of realizes, hey, she'd be really good for my dad, but doesn't say anything.
Oh my god.
But he ends up taking her and her kid home for Thanksgiving, where she meets his dad, who is obviously hot, and is a rancher and is everything. And he brings up Elf on a Shelf now to a struggling single mom. Having to move this freaking elf doll every single night is like a nightmare, and he realizes that he's put his foot in it. So instead of apologizing and saying that, oh, maybe the elf wouldn't be able to come visit the daughter for the holidays, he goes to her house every single night and moves this elf and starts treating her like showing her that he can treat her really well, and they end up falling in love. It's so cute, so I highly recommend that one. It's quite a short one, but it's giving all the cowboy single parent like vibes, and it's stunning. And then my final read that I recommend, that I read last year, is Can I Tell You Something by Holly June Smith. And it features a female main character who is going to France with her family, who own like a ski chalet. And she's going with them for Christmas. So that's what she does every year. This one year, her brother comes for Christmas, and he hasn't come for a really long time to visit, and he brings someone along. And it just so happens that the person he brings along is the bloke that she listens to on an erotic podcast, and she is obsessed with this man. And as soon as he walks into the door and introduces himself, she recognizes his voice instantly. And it's this man that she's been listening to on this podcast. Cozy Christmas vibes ensue, but also smutty vibes.
I love that.
So I'm all for the Christmas books, and those were my recommendations.
I feel like we have a lot of really good Christmas reads here. I think that anyone could stack their TBR for this list. It's amazing.
We've got a bit of everything for everyone. So, you know, Ali's bringing the murder and the depression.
Yeah.
Yep.
Crimson's bringing the monster smut.
Yep, the monster smut and the fanfic, and then Molly's got you covered on cozy vibes.
That's perfect, though, isn't it? Like, we've really got
everything you need
for everybody here. Exactly.
Something for everyone in the festive season. Amazing. Well, I think it's time for a little game. What do you guys think?
I love that. Let's do it.
Yeah, I'm down for a game.
Brilliant. So, this week, I want you guys to come up with 2 characters you'd most like to see in a WWE style SmackDown. Okay, so have a think. And who wants to go first? Shall I go first, or would one of you like to go?
You should go first, since it's your game.
Okay, so the 2 characters I think would be the most iconic to see are Sarah J. Maas characters, obviously, Aelin from A Throne of Glass, obviously, and Nesta, A Court of Silver Flames, specifically A Court of Silver Flames Nesta.
But presumably before the events of the end of the book. Is that right?
Before the events of the end of the book.
All right.
Ooh, feisty.
Both of them are at their full capacity.
Mm-hmm.
I think that could be interesting. I think the thing about Nesta, one of my disappointments with her story, to be honest, I think it's no secret to our listeners that I am not a big Nesta fan and not a big fan of that book. But I think that actually her power set is so cool. And my disappointment is that we have seen so little of it, and it is not clear that there's any.
I am the same. I think that we need her to be booming out and explored in the power sense a little bit more.
So what came to my mind was, you know, Nesta, when she's, you know, going through it still, she hasn't quite figured everything out. Trying to deal with Aelin and her bullshit. You know, the sneaky, keeping secrets, kind of slightly egotistical side of Aelin versus Nesta, who takes no shit.
Yeah. I think seeing them trying to do something together could almost be more fun than the SmackDown, because they are not going to vibe.
No.
They have very different approaches to everything. So.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Like, I could see Aelin vibing with Feyre, because Feyre fully understands the, like, I'm going to go off and make a secret bargain and tell nobody about it kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. She's good at that herself.
So when Aelin does it, she'll just be like, that makes sense, queen. But, like, when Nesta will just be like, fuck this. Like, no way.
Like, are you kidding me? Like, really? But interesting you said that. So you, obviously, with Feyre being the FMC for the majority of ACOTAR, I feel like if Aelin was up against Bryce from Crescent City, it might turn out a bit differently, because those 2 characters are cut from the very similar cloth. And I feel like that would lead them to butt heads quite significantly.
I actually agree with that. I also think Bryce in particular, I mean, people who don't like Bryce now have called Bryce Aelin from Wish, and there's a reason for that. It's because she has all of the audacity that Aelin has, and like not telling people her plans, but there's like a weird sense of like she didn't have to be the one to like set everything in motions the way she did. Like she really takes things to 100 before they need to be there. And I think that can be very frustrating as a reader because you're sitting there like for instance, the entire plot of Crescent City 3, this is not a spoiler, happens over 2 weeks. And that's wild when you think about how many things happen, because it's like she doesn't even take a beat to think about whether or not what she's doing is the right thing or whether she's affecting everybody. Whereas with Aelin, we do see her, especially in Kingdom of Ash, sit and contemplate what is best for everybody, whether her self-sacrificing is necessary, all of these different things. So I think that they would very much butt heads. But I do think that Aelin and Nesta is also a really interesting smackdown because the way their powers are these interesting mirrors of each other too.
Yeah.
So I think that's really cool.
And they're both so stubborn and strong-headed. Even like obviously the WWE SmackDown version of them would be like all guns blazing, but could you imagine just getting them around a table and trying to solve a problem?
Oh my god.
No problem solving would happen at that table.
They would cause more problems.
Yes.
Better yet, them sitting around a table with Amren trying to like mediate between them.
And Kale.
Oh my god, Kale can't mediate shit. Let's be real.
No.
He, like, this is the thing about Kale that's so funny to me with Tower of Dawn, is that his whole purpose is to garner support and create peace and diplomacy. And literally he like walks into a throne room and is like, I need your help with this. And the answer is no.
No.
So like,
yeah.
He's not getting support from anyone, least of all me.
Yeah. It's so, yeah. I mean, maybe Lysandra can make some headway, like, just because she's also badass. And I think Nesta does have an appreciation for badassery like Lysandra's, but it's gonna be tough.
Nesta and Lysandra together would just be the friendship to
I
burn
think they would
everyone down, really.
Could you imagine the angst and the loss between Lysandra and Moore, though? Like,
oh my god, I've never thought about that. That's
Lysandra would be Moore's wet dream.
Yeah,
100%.
Anyway, so what about you two? Who would you most like to see?
I've got one.
Yeah,
go for it.
Okay, so it's one SJM character, but one outside character. I think neither of you have read this series. And I have to be careful and not say exactly who the character is because it's actually a spoiler that they have this power. But there is a character in the Plated Prisoner series which is a King Midas retelling. And this character has the ability to turn things into gold, but also to manipulate anything that is gold. So by manipulate, I mean they can melt gold and it can like fly across the room and like things like this. So I think that this person would be really interesting, and they have some other things about them that I can't talk about that would also make it interesting, but it would be a spoiler. So I think that person up against Aelin could be really interesting because Aelin's whole thing is fire, right? So like this person would like the fact that her power is all around a molten metal would almost kind of negate the fact that Aelin has all this fire. I think that could be like a very interesting showdown for sure.
It would also mean like
that's actually something that I wouldn't have thought of, but yeah.
It would also mean Aelin would actually have to use her brain other than, just throwing fire around.
Other than impulse winging her flames about. Yeah, because, you're going to touch the wrong thing with those and you're going to end up not in a good way.
Exactly, especially because Aelin's whole thing is that she always protects all of her people at the same time that she's unleashing hell. So it would be very difficult for her to do that in this case, I think. So it could be like very interesting.
Yeah, for sure. And Ali, what about you?
So this is based purely on a theory that I have. And I can go a little bit into depth on why I have this theory, but it is a Crescent City character and an Akatar character. So Amren and Fury. Because I am convinced they are the same person or they are related. Part of me, like, and the reason I have this theory is that Amren kind of describes herself as like she was like the messenger or like soldier assassin for like a wrathful god that like ruled the young world. I've actually like this theory is I think this theory is from someone that I've seen on Reddit. So I'm actually like looking for it. I brought it up because I have the same theory. So it's by someone called Nomad Life on Reddit, and they basically say that Amren describes herself as a messenger and soldier assassin for a wrathful god who ruled the young world. But that also sounds very similar to Fury's role as a soldier assassin doing her work for the Astari, which are wrathful gods, right?
So
And they're
that's
also supposed
interesting.
to look very similar, though, aren't they? Like they're supposed
Yeah,
to
they
look
are
very
supposed to.
similar.
Yeah.
Well, I think they both have kind of Asian features, and so they definitely look a little. I think that's really interesting. I think it's possible they're related. I don't think they're the same person.
No.
I think that Amryn, to me, her lore, what little we have, it sounds to me like she might be somehow related to the Asteri themselves, or that she might be the alternative race that's on the Asteri's world that they basically quashed. I can see that being a possibility. So I think that Amryn is definitely was a powerful being in the same realm as the Asteri, but I don't. And I would guess that Fury is somehow descended from that species of people. So
Yeah. I mean, isn't there a lot of like a line of thought that Amryn is like the story surrounding Amryn is based on the Bible. So the Old Testament and it being or her being one of the like biblical, I wouldn't say monsters, but like the biblical messengers of God from the Old Testament.
Yeah.
I read this theory, and it can probably be disproven very easily by reading the books, to be fair, but I read this theory that although you can jump between worlds, as in like you could probably somehow like jump between like the Akatar world and like Throne of Glass and whatever and Crescent City and vice versa, that although they are part of the same world, they're part of different timelines. So I've read somewhere, and I can't remember who said this, but I read somewhere that the reason that some people believe that Amryn and Fury are the same person is that I don't know how to explain it, but basically like half of her soul left Prithian and went to Crescent City, and somehow it was separated. And because it's different timelines, she can be in two places at once.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I haven't heard that
read
one
that
before.
too. Initially, I was like, "What?" But I mean, it makes sense in my brain. I would love for that to be so in depth like that, but also, do we really think that that's going to be written like that? Absolutely not.
No. I do think there's something interesting that's been left open though, and that I'm sure SJM is aware of. I only noticed it recently because I have a friend doing her first Throne of Glass read right now, and it's funny watching someone read these books for the first time and seeing things that they pick up on that ultimately don't matter at all.
Yeah.
Because like I've said before, Sarah is the king of Chekhov's gun, but that doesn't mean that she pre-planned every little thing. It means that she leaves herself a lot of open threads that she can pull on. Yeah. And this was one of them. So she was like speculating who Loomis is and trying to understand how this god like interacts with everything else. And literally like both me and our other friend who have read them were like, who the hell is that? And we had to like Google it because we had totally forgotten about this guy. And he's just a minor, like one of the gods in Throne of Glass. And it turns out was a real character, right? Because you find out that gods are real people. And but what was interesting is while I was looking into who he was, I found this passage from the book about how the gods used to be able to move freely between worlds. And there's no mention in that piece of it about the word gates. And it actually is said that they got stuck, like, kind of because of the creation of the word gates. And so I think there is something there about, like why do the word gates exist? Like, why is it like that now? Where there used to be beings that were able to move between worlds freely, but now you have to find one of these portals or one of these, like, gates in order to actually move between worlds. So I think that she still has a lot to pull on in the rest of ACOTAR. And
I am
Yeah.
excited. I really,
Yeah.
really, really need a new ACOTAR book, guys. I was saying this earlier that I just need one. I need a new one, and I'm sad about it. It's been too long, and I'm stressing myself out about it.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, it's not going to be the beginning of this year, like 2025. It's late 2025 at the earliest, but I'm thinking 2026 now.
It's going to be 2026, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, and I actually hope so, because to me, this is just my opinion. I think that House of Flame and Shadow is a great book, but I do think it was rushed, especially because she rewrote it. And I do feel that some of the details of the lore and the plot don't really come together smoothly. Like, it feels really like you like shove these things together. And I think if she had had a little more time, maybe she could have made it feel more seamless and more
I
real.
am the same. I definitely think the same reason, and I can't spoil it, obviously, because there'll be people listening who want to read that, but Bryce doesn't spend enough time in
really anywhere.
The place where she goes.
the place where she goes. Yeah, she doesn't spend enough time there. It's like 10 minutes.
And she also, I found that sequence so frustrating because if she had just used her words a little bit,
like
communication, different. And she was never, before that, she was secretive in the same way that Aelin was, but she wasn't there was no reason really for her to be as secretive as she was, because while I don't think this is a spoiler, but like, she definitely was like fearful of her life and like concerned for her safety. And I get that, but like that, like whether or not you give the information she needed to give to communicate wouldn't have really changed her situation, I don't think. And so
she also was very uncharacteristic. It was very out of character for her, wasn't it? Like, because this whole thing is that she's impulsive and rash, and she just like does things because she does things.
But she wasn't like that before. Like, in Crescent City 1, she plans meticulously everything that she does. She does the same thing in Crescent City 2. So it's just very weird to see her kind of just wing it like that. In a way that she never does before that. Especially because she went there for a very specific purpose. And it feels like if I were her, I would have wanted more information before leaving.
Yeah.
So
definitely
agreed. What a conversation that we've had.
Yeah. Well, I think it's time for our next segment, which is going to be a little slice of blasé bookish news. So obviously, as I mentioned before, there was an election this week. And as I'm sure people noticed a few weeks ago when this comes out, there was a lot that Book Talk had to say about it, or rather, some of Book Talk didn't want to say anything at all about it. And there was a lot of back and forth. And I don't think we need to like fully rehash it, but I know that those of us who sit more towards the left, more towards wanting to use our vote to preserve equality and all of these things, we've pretty much said like we don't want to hang out with the MAGA side of Book Talk anymore. And that means that we're going to start missing things that they are saying. And I happened to get one of these videos on my page and I noticed something really funny. And then I went kind of digging and noticed that this is a very common refrain right now among the people who are very like, no matter who you voted for, you can be friends with me. I voted for Trump, blah, blah, blah. They think that the price of paperbacks is going to go down. And they think that because they believe that the tariffs that Trump is going to impose will cause books to be manufactured in the United States, and that this will mean that paperbacks get less expensive. And I'm just like, what the heck?
The math isn't quite mathing there. Okay.
It's not cohesive, is it? Like, it's not, like, where has this come from?
Yeah, I think it's really strange. I think it comes from the same place. So if anyone listening is kind of unaware of this, there were originally reports that maybe the turnout wasn't good, and there were some graphs put out that made it look like that, but that's not the case. The turnout was actually fantastic for the election. It seems like people voted about the economy. And they were convinced by the platitudes that Trump has put out about the economy that he is going to lead us to cheaper prices on everything. And it's really strange to me because I don't know how people think that by imposing tariffs on imports, you end up with higher wages and cheaper goods. And it's also worth pointing out, like, wages in the United States have not moved significantly in like 50 years. So for labor jobs. So it's just like, how do you think this is going to work? And I think something else that's interesting, as someone with a lot of books from both Europe and the US, is about like half of the paperbacks I own that I bought in the US were actually manufactured in the US. That's pretty common. But some of them were also manufactured abroad. And the trend that I noticed in my own bookshelf is that the books manufactured in the US that had to be shipped less far using US materials are more expensive. They just are by like a few dollars. So like, for instance, Butcher and Blackbird, when it's manufactured in the US, is an $18 paperback. But Leather and Lark, which is the same author, when you buy it in the UK, it's £9.99 because it's manufactured in the UK, and it's cheaper to manufacture it there. And to balance that out, that's about $13 US. So like $5 cheaper.
That's wild, because I guarantee
That is crazy.
I guarantee you can get Butcher and Blackbird for like £7 on Amazon. Like, they don't even go for like,
I'm
the
pretty
recommended
sure that
retail
you can get
price.
like Butcher and Blackbird probably in the works for like £5.
Yeah, so you can buy it now on Amazon in the US for $12, like at a discount. But its original retail price is $18.
That's crazy for a paperback as well.
Yeah, and those are very common prices. Most of my US paperbacks are like $17-18.
What are hardback prices like?
Actually, I can pick out Crave, because Crave is like a normal sized paperback that I bought in the US, or hardback that I bought in the US. It is, $18.99, so around the same cost, which is just, I mean, I think
that's baffling. Because no wonder a lot of, you'll see like a lot of like American BookTube or TikTok or whatever, a lot of you guys will have the hardback copies. And I'm thinking, I always look at that and I'm thinking, how do you afford that many hardbacks? Like, you're getting deliveries and they're all hardbacks. But realistically, if they are roughly the same price as a paperback, then if
Just
the
go
hardbacks
for the
are sturdier.
hardback. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they won't be the same price as the same book in hardback, but yeah, it depends on what you're looking at. Like, I think, actually, I know exactly how we can compare this. I have a hardback of Court of Silver Flames, and I happen to know that my paperback of Court of Silver Flames, which, to be fair, is a huge book, is €19 or $19 in the United States. And the hardback was 28, so about $10 more. But those are also printed abroad, so they're cheaper than
What is
books
like
of the similar
that?
size.
What is that? And I don't want to say in British money, but
I think so. I know that like 13 is around 10 British pounds. The pound is stronger than the dollar. I would guess that 28 is going to be around like a little under 25 British pounds, maybe more like 22.
Just looking it up for you.
Yeah.
Oh, it's 20. So that's about the same. It's at 21. So that's roughly about the same price as a hardback here.
Mm-hmm.
But your paperbacks are almost twice as dear as they would be here.
Yeah. I don't know why that is. I mean, to be fair, we do have floppier paperbacks than you guys do. So maybe there's something about the printing process that makes
I don't
it more
like
expensive.
a flop. That's a really controversial opinion. Hate it.
Interesting.
Awful.
I love a flop.
I don't like a flop. It makes me feel like they haven't been made right. And sorry if anyone can hear me rustling. I'm literally trying to stretch out my legs. I don't like a flop. I feel like a book should be able to hold its form. And yes, they do. And yes, it kind of takes away the whole they're harder to crinkle and stuff like that because they're floppy. But I just don't like a floppy book. I don't like them. I'm sorry.
I feel like I'd rather have a cheaper book over a floppy book, even if I was like a floppy book reader. Like,
100.
So what is going on?
Okay, so like, for example, my copy of Bride is not floppy. And my copy of The Love Hypothesis is printed in the US, so it is floppy. Same thing with Leather and Lark and Butcher and Blackbird. And it's like, you know, I would pay another dollar or two for floppy. But when you get into the like $5 range, it's kind of like, what am I paying
A whole
for?
other book.
Some glue? Like,
Yeah.
what is happening? Like, I don't understand. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think what I'm paying for is short green paper instead of long green paper is what it really is. And it's just like, it just has to do with how you cut the paper. So I don't know. So anyway, I think it's really, really funny to watch all of these MAGA people who are, you know, very upset at being kicked out of a certain part of Book Talk, but also very delusionally convinced that like paperbacks are going back to $10, which is like, how would they do that if in countries like Great Britain that prints a lot of their own books and has them at $9.99 retail, but that's in British pounds, which are stronger than the dollar, like we're never getting back down to $10. There's just no way. But I think people don't know that. Another interesting fact is that ink can sometimes be an import, even if you're manufacturing in the US. So like our biggest ink producer is Sun Chemical, who is US based, and they do manufacture in the US. But the next four are all European companies. There's going to be an import tax on that ink. So
I mean,
interesting.
Yeah.
We are, you know, the main fan of the Delulu Beret, but I feel like something's not quite right there, you know?
Yeah. And look, with everything being so depressing in politics right now and in the discourse on Book Talk about politics, I think it's good to take a moment to look at these like things and just say like, okay, but it's so ridiculous that it's funny.
You've got to see
Agreed.
the hilarity in it. Otherwise you'll just spend your whole time crying, you know?
Yeah, there'll be sobbing involved.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I hope they're right. Like, I hope that somehow the delusion is true. I just am smart enough to know that it's not. So,
wishful thinking.
Wishful thinking. So, Allie, what's next?
Yeah, so I know that we spoke earlier about all of the Christmas books that we can certify, the ones that we've read, the ones that we would 100% recommend, whether they're depressing or fluffy or, you know, someone's dying in a corner. But what I thought would be really interesting, and what I actually want to know about you guys specifically, is what are your Christmas hopefuls this year? What are the books, not even Christmas, but just festive in general, what are the books that you are looking to read during the festive season? And Crimson, I think I'm going to ask you first, because you always have some interesting things straight off the bat.
Okay, yeah, I have kind of a very diverse list, I would say. It's not a long list, but it's definitely pretty all over the place. So the first is Love Light Farms by, I think it's BK Borison. It's the first in a series. I don't really know that much about it. What I do know is that it's a rom-com and there's a Christmas tree farm involved. And that's kind of enough for me. So I'm going to be checking that out. I'm really excited for it. There's another one that is a Christmas rom-com that I wanted to read last year and just never got around to. It's called Kiss Her Once for Me, and it is a sapphic romance. And what it is it's a fake dating. So she is fake dating a man, and then she, I think, falls in love with his sister. Queen energy. It might be spiceless or very low spice. I'm not 100%. This is one of the reasons it fell to the bottom of my TBR last year, but I do want to check it out because I don't have any other LGBT romances on the list for the end of this year, and I want to like sneak another one in there. So I think this is a good way to do it. And then my next two, I also know very little about, but I know that they're dark, and I think that dark romance is really fun at this time of year sometimes. So one of them is called Bought by Santa by, I think it's B. Liebeck. And it's basically like an obsessive MMC kind of thing. I think there's like some ownership kind of stuff in it. So it seems kind of silly and dark and crazy. Definitely check the trigger warnings if anyone checks this out as well.
The title of that one, it almost was giving me my mum sold me to One Direction vibes when I first saw the title of that. I was like,
yeah, it might be like that. I'm really not sure. I'm assuming there's some kind of mafia vibe to it, but
Yeah.
I'm not 100%. And we'll see. It could totally end up being a DNF. The list that I got these 2 dark ones from had some authors on there that I know I don't like, so we'll see what happens. The next one is called Sacked and Slayed by Aurelia Knight. And it's a novella that's part of another series, but it's a standalone. And basically, she's working as a Christmas elf, and she's getting these like secret admirer letters from someone who signs it Claus. And the Santa she's working with, I think, mysteriously dies. And then the new Santa who shows up is like hot and kind of dangerous seeming. And then it kind of goes from there. Seems like it could be stalker vibes. So
I don't think
we're gonna
the
go
old Santa mysteriously died. I'm just getting the vibe that there was no mystery there. I think we know who did it.
You think there's an answer here?
Yeah.
We'll see. We'll see. And then other than that, like we talked about, Harry Potter fanfic, it's different this time of year. So I'm definitely going to be checking out all of the Advent Fests and seeing what kind of smutty fanfic you can come up with. So
I love it.
Slay.
And pun fully intended, I assume.
Obviously, yep.
Obviously. Yeah. Well, Allie, what do you have any more murder for us this year, or is it going to be a little fluffier?
No murder.
Damn.
Well, sort of. I did go to Waterstones this morning and I saw a new murder book that I wanted, but I didn't buy it, so that's key in that. So I did buy a couple of books in the works this morning. Now, I haven't actually got them on my initial list, and I can't remember what their names are. There's something about cats.
Love it. Yep.
It's
I'm
like
sold.
Christmas at the Cat Cafe or something. Like, I can't remember what it's called.
Oh, I feel like I've heard about what you're talking about. Yes, Cat Cafe is 100%.
I'm gonna type in Christmas book cat romance. God, what is Google going to give me?
You're gonna get furries.
Christmas at the Cat Cafe.
I think I've been told that there is now a cat cafe somewhere in Paris, and I need to go find it. So
there's one in Bristol.
We have one near us that I could see. You know, in Edinburgh, there's a Chihuahua cafe.
What? That's so fun.
Yeah.
Oh my god, all those little shaky dogs.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They're always
There's
like
a Chihuahua cafe.
You two can pay to get your ankles bitten.
Ankles bitten.
Yeah. They like Chihuahuas just think that they're like way bigger than they actually are.
Well, that's true.
So
that is true. They do sort of believe that they are,
but it's all up front. Like the first time they get so my sister-in-law has a dog who is obviously part Chihuahua. She will never admit this, but it's very clear that he's part Chihuahua, part terrier. She just says he's a little terrier, but come on. And he likes to pretend he thinks he's a big dog, but then the second an animal bigger than him touches him, he freaks out and like runs to mom. So, you know,
that is so cute. I relate to that.
We took care of them one time, and so Pi was definitely like frenemies with the dogs, and with Frankie is smaller than Pi, so Pi was like, okay, like I can play with this animal, it's not gonna hurt me. And so he's probably like he's like 4 pound like US pounds smaller than, so maybe like 2 or 3 kilos. Pi was playing with him, and at first Frankie like loved it, right? Like loved chasing him and whatever. And this deteriorated within about 10 minutes because then Pi, being a cat, grabbed him and put him in his little bear lock and started kicking him, right? Like that's what cats do. And I have never heard a scream like the scream that came out of this dog. Like I thought that Pi had disemboweled him, and actually like he hadn't even scratched him. Like he hadn't even gotten his claws out.
Pi is amazing.
Iconic. Love it. Love it.
Okay, so Christmas at the Cat Cafe.
Yep.
Yeah, so Christmas at the Cat Cafe. I bought that this morning. I also bought a couple of other ones that I can't remember the names of, but they're not on my initial list. I know that for much. So, I have Christmas Tree Farm by Laurie Gilmore. She is the one that writes the Cinnamon Bun Bookshop and the Pumpkin Spice Cafe romance books. Yeah, so Christmas Tree Farm is on my list by Laurie Gilmore, so the one that writes the Cinnamon Bun Bookstore and the Pumpkin Spice Cafe, because I didn't realize that the Christmas Tree Farm book was out yet, and then I saw it in Waterstones and purchased it immediately. I then went to the works and saw it in there for like half the price, so I was like, well, bank account screaming, but whatever. Love Light Farms is also on my list. I would love to pick that up. And I have seen Wreck the Halls, the Tessa Bailey books on my list. I would love to reread A Court of Frost and Starlight because it just seems cozy. And I also know what happens, so I know that I'll enjoy it for 100% of the time. And I've got one other Christmas book and then one non-Christmas book on my list. So the Christmas book that I have is A Court of Sugar and Spice. And I believe it's a Nutcracker fairy retelling.
Yep.
But it looks really, really good.
It does look cute.
This one's a wee bit of a hear me out. So whenever I think of Christmas, I always think of my grandparents. We would go to my grandparents' house every year. We'd have Christmas dinner at their house. When we were younger, we used to stay over, like my mum, my dad, my sister and I would stay over, and then we'd sit there for Boxing Day. And now, if we went over, we'd go home that night and then come back for Boxing Day the next day. And Christmas in my family is like a 2-day event. It is like an event. I'm not even joking. It is not cozy, snuggle in your pajamas Christmas vibes. It is like a military operation in their house, but it is cozy and I love it. And there's loads of Christmas music and everyone's plastered. So nice. It's
Merry
great,
Christmas.
but it makes me very, very nostalgic. And there is a book that I have been wanting to reread that gives me the utmost nostalgia for my childhood, and that is Aragon by Christopher Pauline.
Okay. Yeah.
Now, I mean, like, I was obsessed with the movie so much that I would watch it at least twice a week. I left a copy of it in Center Parcs and cried when I found out, and my granda had to order me a new one.
Bless him.
I was at least 11.
Bless his heart.
I know, so I would really like to reread the Aragon series.
The whole thing.
I would like to read the whole thing, but not at Christmas. But the first one for definite. But yeah, I would love to read the first book in the Aragon series because I've been wanting to reread it for ages, and because it's so nostalgic, I think like it could be a really good Christmas Day read. Yeah, it's so nostalgic for me. Aragon is so nostalgic, and I feel like the lead up to Christmas, I'll want to read festive books, but on Christmas Day, it could be such a nice book to read on Christmas Day because it's so cozy and nostalgic.
Yep.
Sounds like some sort of like winter disease.
It does.
It does. I feel like I need to get vaccinated.
Yeah.
Don't catch the cold.
Yep.
It's like COVID's Christmas special.
Oh god. That's a Christmas special we don't need.
No. Fun fact, I've never read Aragon, actually.
I don't think I have either.
Oh, guys, we should buddy read.
Well, let's see how Twilight goes. It's rough so far.
Well, I'll be finished Twilight by next week, so it's fine.
That's true. You'll be ready to go. The rest of us will be over here, like, watching the Volturi, like, get introduced. Yeah.
Anyway, I'm gonna shut up because I feel like I'm gonna say something else that just won't sound
Oh my god,
right.
I'm sorry.
Molly.
What
are your Christmas reads this year?
My Christmas reads, like my Christmas TBR is growing by the day. So obviously I'm now going to be adding the Dear Monster Claus to my list. Thank you for that, Crimson, as per usual. I have also got Love Light Farms and Christmas Tree Farm on my TBR, so I'm excited to get around to those. I also have Kiss Her Once for Me, surprisingly. I've been wanting to read it for a little while, and yeah, I'm definitely hoping to get around to that one. As we said earlier when Ali was mentioning her favourite Christmas reads, A Merry Little Meet Cute is on my TBR for this year, and I'm hoping I'll get round to it. In addition, I will be reading Window Shopping by Tessa Bailey. I did read Wreck the Halls, but I haven't read Window Shopping, and I do have a physical copy, so I'm well excited to get into that one. It sounds so cute.
I cannot wait to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I imagine I'll have many. In addition to those, I have Alphemies to Lovers by Jennifer Chipman, which is a Christmas romance that is being released in the next couple of weeks, where the female main character is an elf at Santa's workshop, and the male main character is Santa's son who hates Christmas.
Oh, I want to read that. That sounds good.
Okay, so that's the first one. And then very similar along that line is The Nightmare Before Christmas by Sarah Rush. And it is what it sounds like. It is the son of Santa and the son of like the king of Halloween.
I love it.
Oh my god, I want to read that. That sounds right up my
That's
alley.
right up my alley. Yeah,
Right.
that sounds amazing.
So there's those, and then the last one on my list is all over TikTok at the moment. And I don't know if you guys have heard the sound of like BookTok girlies reading or listening to the audiobook, but it's How My Neighbor Stole Christmas by Megan Quinn, and it involves a candy cane.
Oh, maybe I have heard.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. Okay. I love anything involving candy canes, obviously. So let's do it.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
So those are some on my list. There's more. There's always more.
You go big in the festive reads, don't you? Like you love it. You love a seasonal read, whether it's like Halloween or Christmas. What do you like at Valentine's Day?
Not that not that big of a deal, to be fair. Christmas and Halloween are my wheelhouse.
Your go-to.
But also I feel that romance is always Valentine's Day. So
yeah.
We're like doing it all year.
Yeah. Very true.
Although I did write a Valentine's Day one-shot one time, and that was good.
Maybe we should read that.
I've read a couple of Valentine's Day fanfics, don't get me wrong.
But haven't we all?
It's only 1,000 words if you do want to read it, so.
Always.
Yeah. Maybe we'll make a mini-sode where we read it out loud on the podcast.
Yes.
Oh boy.
Oh my goodness.
I don't know if it's good enough for that, but we'll see. I'd rather just read, like unhinged sentient object romance.
Yes.
What was the one that we're gonna read at Christmas time? The one, is it the one about the candy canes?
I don't remember, but I'm
pretty sure it's
I'm
yours.
sure
it's one of yours.
I'm sure whichever we come up with is going to be excellent.
I'm excited for something unhinged.
Me too.
Anyway, I think we'll call it a day, guys.
We shall.
I think that's about it. So I know that usually we say what we're going to be reading in the next week, but the festive reads are strong with this group, so you can almost guess what we're going to be reading in the next couple of weeks. So,
well, except for you have to remember that Molly and I are still reading Twilight.
Yeah.
I am never letting this go. I hope you realize. Sorry. Like, we'll be talking in like 20 years' time, and I'll be like, do you remember that time when Ali like sped and finished Twilight while we were buddy reading?
While we were
and left us behind.
It wasn't even that she sped ahead. It was that she posted in the chat like as if everybody else was probably already done, like as if we had done the same thing. It was the complete like obliviousness for me. It was great.
I just assumed that. So I don't know how to explain this, but I just in my head I assumed that when I posted that I was starting the book and I was on chapter 1, 2, 3, that you guys would just keep reading.
So I was just like confused because we have the threads for like each section of chapters and you weren't posting at all. So I was just like, she must not be reading. Like,
I forgot that they existed.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
I was having a good time, guys. You should be happy that I actually enjoyed myself.
Well, let's hope that when we do the episode doing the breakdown of Twilight, she remembers what happened.
More than likely.
Like, that was 6 months ago. What are you talking about?
Who's Carlisle?
Don't you dare.
I will say we can probably cut this part, but can we have a moment for what a hard-on Charlie has for Carlisle in the beginning of Twilight? I totally forgot.
I love it.
Yeah,
it's great. He's like, that's a great man. He's amazing.
Is a great man. Is a great man.
Yeah, a great man who's like running unauthorized medical experiments and stuff. But sure, yeah, great.
It's okay. Why not?
He's hot. It's fine.
Yeah. I don't see anything wrong with this. He's like the dream man.
Exactly.
I'll push Charlie out of the way for him.
I'm sorry. What? Isn't it funny that like we've gotten older and now I'm just like, Charlie. He's a man with a job and a house and
Oh, I'm not very
I
impressed by Charlie,
always
but
remember being like, I don't like him, he's weird. And then suddenly he's attractive.
we'll get there. I mean, like 5 years after you get there, but we'll get there. So.
Yeah. I'll be docked in cells. I'll have built a house on the Twilight Hill.
It's all good.
Yeah. You'll be reading the advanced reader copy of like whatever she's doing with Renesmee's story.
Ugh, please don't. Please don't.
I don't know what's going to happen, but I can't imagine I'm going to like it.
Thank you for listening. If anyone's looking for any of the socials, this will be actually up on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. So hello and thank you for listening or watching wherever your choice of platform is. If you would like to find us on Instagram, TikTok, and also all of our personal bits and pieces, you can find us at Fic Fiction or Fic Fiction Pod on most platforms, and they'll also be linked down below. So thank you for listening, and I'm gonna go have some dinner. So I will speak to you guys in the chat.
Amazing.
Absolutely.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.